Welcome to PrepsNet Coach Speak with McAdory High School head football coach Aryvia Holmes, powered by the McAdory Yellow Jackets shop. Visit mcadory.shop for all of your Yellow Jackets gear. Here's your host, Aubrey Johnson.
Welcome back, Coach.
Yes, sir. Good to be back.
All righty. So back on September 5th, you had a very nice win against Northridge. You beat them 33-24. Tell us about that night.
Yeah, I think, when we had our interview, we talked about, what that game was going to be like. And
Right.
a couple of things I mentioned was, physicality.
Yes, sir.
Talked about, making sure we maintain our discipline, making sure we kept our composure, things like that. Anytime we play Northridge, it's always physical.
Right.
Coach does a really good job over there, making sure those guys are ready to go. And I knew our kids were going to be ready to go. So it was a really, really hard-fought contest.
Okay.
Fortunately, we was able to come out with a win. But, speaking on that, unfortunately, I was ejected from that ball game. And,
okay.
Certain things happened throughout the ball game that I thought I was addressing with some officials. And, they didn't see it the way I saw it. And,
Okay.
and that's fine. But I do believe – there's, First Thessalonians talks about, be careful not to pay back bad for bad.
Right.
And in all things, try to do what's good. And, I talked to my kids this past Sunday about, being having accountability for your actions.
Yes, sir.
And at no point in time will I ever, excuse the way that I acted at the ball game.
Right.
But there is a couple lessons I learned from it. The first thing is that this community is awesome.
Nice.
Just the way the fans rallied around that team.
Yes, sir.
My coaches, hats off to those guys. You never know when you're going to be kind of the next guy in line.
Right.
You're going to have to step up and make decisions that you've never had to make before.
Sure.
Make calls that you never had to make before. And it was just all seamless. There was no egos with those guys.
That's really good.
Those kids stepped up and they made a lot of really good plays to help us win that ball game. So I'm
Right.
super excited about. Again, I talked to you when we talked earlier. I said I really like this team.
Right.
That's the reason why, because
Right.
they're just different. They're different
Yeah.
in terms of they didn't blink an eye. They really didn't.
Right.
And I hated not to be on the sideline with those guys,
Mm-hmm.
but they did exactly what we coached them to do. And those coaches, they've been watching me the entire time.
Right.
So they knew when I went out exactly how to run the program and what to do on the sidelines and
Right.
stuff. So I'm extremely excited about, where we're headed as a program. And,
Sure.
I did want to mention that because I think it's important that, young kids understand, like, there's, you have to be accountable for your actions. And
Right.
There's consequences for it.
Sure.
And I take full responsibility for that, but I'm glad we was able to get the win.
Right.
And continue on from there.
Well, you wouldn't really wish for that to ever happen to
Correct.
yourself,
Correct.
but since it happened, you really found out a lot more about your team, your staff, and the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Good.
Unfortunately, it took that to see some of those
Yeah.
things. And I don't necessarily want it to be about that.
Right.
But I do take pride in the fact of, like, it can be done.
Yes.
The high school feeling that we talked about several times on this show,
Mhm.
that's what I want. I want
Right.
it to be a community thing. I want the kids to love playing for McAdory High School.
Right.
I want the parents to love their kids playing at McAdory High School. And the sky's the limit when it's that way. Some
Yes,
of the
sir.
programs that I've been a part of that are really successful, that's the way it's been.
Okay.
So it's not about I, it's all about team.
Nice.
We talked about one heartbeat, so we're going to continue to try to push that, that mantra,
Yeah.
and make sure that everybody's staying on the same accord. So super
Good.
excited.
Good deal. So obviously a really nice win.
Mm-hmm.
Who played well for you? Let's start with the offense.
Yeah, so on the offensive side of the ball, Justin Patton, he's continuing to do exactly what we need him to do to win
Good.
football games. I think he was 50% passing, over 100 yards.
Wow.
He had almost 70 yards rushing, so doing
Wow.
some things that we
Yeah.
hadn't traditionally done with him. he actually, on the first rushing touchdown, he actually called that play from the huddle. We had a conversation about something. He saw something a little bit different. He made the call, and it worked. So,
good deal.
Hats off to that kid to be, when you're a senior quarterback, there's going to be times where you're going to have to make the call.
Right.
We're not out on the field with them. There's certain things that they see that we may not see. And he has enough trust in me, and I have enough trust in him to know that, if there's something that he likes, that he wants to try, then let's do it.
Sure.
Because I'll go to battle with that kid anytime.
Good deal.
So Justin Patton, quarterback, played well. Both running backs, Kawan Johnson, Darion. I brought my stat sheet out because it's been a while. But Kawan Johnson had 14 for 134 in the touchdown.
Fantastic.
And then Darion Davis had 11 for 67 in the touchdown. We also, not to cut you off, we also had a receiver, Jeremiah Ware. He's a 10th grade receiver. It was 4th down, and we were going to quarterback sneak it.
Right.
Justin quarterback sneaked, fumbled the ball.
Ooh.
This kid, who's a backup, came in, getting quality reps, saw there was a fumble, picked it up, and ran it in for 67 yards on a touchdown.
Fantastic.
And arguably, that was the biggest play of the game.
Oh, I bet it was.
It really was.
It probably changed momentum.
Yeah, as a coaching staff, we gave him Offensive Player of the Week.
Fantastic.
Because that was humongous. To be a 10th grade receiver in a tight game like that, and to have the
heads up.
to have the wherewithal to see, oh man, it's a fumble, ball's on the ground, let's pick it up and go score. Huge shout out to that kid, man. He deserves everything he gets.
Very nice. So what about on defense?
Defensive side of the ball, holistically, all those guys.
Okay.
I told you we was going to be a little outmatched when it comes to size, but what they did in the second half, after my ejection, I basically gave them a touchdown because of field position. But after that, the rest of the game, our defense was lights out.
Nice.
Those guys were running to the ball.
Very good.
Our defensive coordinator, some of the adjustments he made, things that we hadn't done in practice, but the kids understood what he was trying to do, and they went out and executed, man. And they had some turnovers late. We had several interceptions, so super excited about not only what those guys are doing on the defensive side of the ball, but what that coaching staff is doing to make sure that they're in the right places to make the plays. Yes,
okay. All right. So any big injuries of note in that game?
We did not. We going into it, we played without our starting left tackle.
Right.
We played without one of our starting receivers.
Wow.
So we were actually banged up going into that game.
Yeah.
So, this bye week couldn't have come at a better time. So we're getting everybody back healthy. We got a big task ahead of us, so we're going to try to have a good practice this week and with everybody back in the fold and see how we can keep going on from here.
Right. Good deal. So, like you said, you've had a bye week, which essentially kind of gives you 2 weeks to prepare for your next opponent, which is Brookwood, coming up this Friday. What do you expect to see from the Panthers?
So what I've seen, which is a little different from last year, I think those kids always play hard.
Yes.
I really do. But what I've seen on film this year, schematically, they're tough to deal with.
Yeah.
Not to get into the X's and the O's, but anytime you can be in one personnel and show a bunch of different formations, it makes it tough on the defense. So they can be in empty, and then they can be in 21 personnel, and they can be in 20 personnel. They can line up in 11 personnel, all with the same kids.
Right.
That's really, really difficult. They know what they're doing. They're very sound. And if we're not gap sound on defense, if we're not doing exactly what we tell them to do, it could be a long night. So we got our work ahead of us this week. We got to make sure that we got all that stuff taken care of, or homecoming is going to be a long night. So.
Yes, gotcha. So on its face, if you look at this game on paper, you see that they're 1-3 so far on the season. You would think, oh, maybe this is an easy win. My question to you is it easier or more difficult to prepare for a team like this?
It's more difficult as a kid.
Okay.
This is the best time of the year for us as coaches.
Right.
When you're picked to win, when everybody expecting you to win, coaches, we love that because we know, let's be honest, kids only need us when times get tough.
Yes.
So, as a head coach, when we're coming into those type of weeks where everybody's expecting you to win, that's when we turn up the most.
Right.
Because we're going to get every single thing out of you that week, because there's nothing more deflating and nothing more embarrassing to drop a game that everybody expecting you to win. So
very much so.
This won't be a week off for us. This
Right.
actually going to be probably one of the hardest coaching weeks that we've done so far. So us coaching staff, we're excited about this. I've already had a conversation with my coaches. They know what their expectations are.
Right.
We're going to get after it. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's going to be lights out. So
right.
They've had a week off. They should be fresh. So now it's time to go back to work.
Okay. So you mentioned the kids. Is that because, unlike an adult coach who knows what this is all about, the kids can look at this and go, well, maybe we've arrived, maybe we've had a winning season so far. Maybe we can just let off the gas.
Yeah, people start patting you on the back.
Yes.
You know how it goes. It's like the whole social media thing. Everybody's pumping you up when you're good, and as soon as you're bad, then everybody destroys you and tear you down. So
right.
I told them Sunday, I said, same thing that can make you laugh will make you cry.
Right.
So we've got to be prepared. Like, there is no game on our schedule that we can just roll the ball out there and expect to win if we don't prepare. So it won't be because of preparation. We will be ready.
Good. Well, all right, Coach. We're going to add a segment here that we've not done before. Talk about player spotlight. And the player that we're going to talk about here is Justin Patton. He's your senior quarterback. You mentioned him a lot concerning last week's game. Just tell us a little bit more about this kid.
Yeah, Justin, man, he makes this team go. He's the leader of the team, very cerebral guy. He loves football. He loves competing. He thinks he's the best at everything. He's actually been a joy to be around this year.
Good.
He really has. Great personality. It's always funny to see like how Key has transitioned from year to year. Last year he was really kind of off to himself and wasn't very talkative, and now
he's come on.
Yeah, he's come along, man, and we have great conversations, and not all the time about football either. So I really enjoy being around him. I really enjoy watching the way he leads this program, and the kids like playing with him. So it's been a blessing to coach him for sure.
Okay, good deal. So, Coach, that's our show. We appreciate your time, and as always, we appreciate yours. Join us again in a couple of weeks for another McAdory edition of Coach Speak.